Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a very quick edition of Fresh Read Kills. So Fresh Read Kills are the videos where I talk about the books that I have recently finished reading. And I read two very short works over the last, this one I read this morning, and this one I read over the course of a few nights. And these both have to deal with the holiday season, Christmas time in different ways. And they're both also related to something that I did with my family that I just want to talk about very quickly. So we have been looking for ways to further celebrate and focus upon different seasons. We've been looking for ways basically to extend our holiday celebrating, bring on new traditions. And one of the new traditions that we adopted is one from Iceland. I'm not going to try and say the Icelandic name for it, but it basically translates to Yule Bokflood. And ever since World War II or just after, it seems that what they've done in Iceland is they have gifted each other books on Christmas Eve, and then they spend the rest of the night basically reading in cozy places, going into bed, eating chocolate, that sort of thing, just spending time with the books. And of course, big bibliophile, my kids love books as well, so we decided let's adopt that tradition, but except not on Christmas Eve, because we already have plans on Christmas Eve, so we did it a few nights beforehand. And it ended up being a pretty big hit. So I tried to pick out books that I figured would complement each member of my family. So my daughter, I got her a book. It was like Puppy's First Christmas. She's 8 years old, and she's been really gravitating towards books about cats and dogs. And she really liked hers. I mean, sort of. There's a little bit more to it. I got my son this one, The Scary Book of Christmas Lore. Forget about the jingle bells and jolly old St. Nick, 50 terrifying Yuletide tales from around the world. And I actually ordered this one from Amazon, and they had a buy one, get one half off deal. So I got one for myself as well. So he has a copy, I have a copy. And this one I picked up from the local bookstore for my wife. So Susanna Clarke, The Wood at Midwinter. This is, of course, a very famous author. This is the first thing I read by her. But my wife is not the avid reader that I am. So I wanted to get her something that was kind of intimidating, that looked really pretty, that she would like, and she did end up enjoying it. What's funny is when we opened up all these presents, my daughter was kind of jealous of my wife's book because of how much it looked, so she was a little bit grumpy at first. We ended up that evening all kind of laying in our bed. We have a big king size, and just read for a pretty long time into the night until everybody was too tired. And my daughter did end up loving her book, and she got over the jealousy. The next day, she actually made me a card saying she was sorry, and she drew a picture of her book on there as well. Sorry that she got jealous. So it was kind of sweet. So I didn't read her book, but I did end up reading my wife's book and the book that I got for my son. So I guess we can start with this one. So again, it says 50 terrifying Yuletide tales. It's not like tales. This is more like an encyclopedia of various odd, macabre, eerie traditions, mostly from Europe, or a few other places around the world, but they're mostly from Europe, and Northern Europe especially. And you can see the illustrations are actually pretty fun. And there's 50 entries. These aren't tales though. They're more like encyclopedia entries. They give an overview of what this creature or tradition is. It doesn't go into depth. They only amount to 2 pages, sometimes less than that. So this is a very quick read. And of course it's got things like Krampus. It's got Lucy. Some of the ones that I bookmark here are ones that I want to look into more. We've got things from Finland, the Tomte, or Tomta, I'm not sure exactly how you say that. A lot of these I don't know how to say. They do, conveniently, he has one for Victorian Christmas ghost stories, which we just did an event called Ghost of Christmas Past, Resurrecting a Tradition, where we read ghost stories for Christmas. That was a fun booktube event. Yeah, we've got Frau Persta, also known as the Belly Slitter. So this was fun. I mean, if you're somebody who likes dark folklore and fairy tales and wants to mix it up with your Christmas lore, maybe find ways to bring these sorts of celebrations and traditions into your own household. I mean, I'm not opposed to that sort of thing. I think this is a good jumping off point for the most part. I do have a little bit of criticism when it comes to this. I wish that there was a little bit more in-depth on some of these things. Also, for fairly short work, there were a decent number of typographic errors. I think better copy editing could have been used. Just letters repeating, sometimes letters missing. We had one of them, it's like Bukak and Bukak night, or Bukak, I don't know how you say it, but I don't think it's supposed to be and. I think it's just to be Bukak night. There was no explanation for why there would be two of them, so I was assuming that was actually an error. So, despite it being a fun, quick read, it's not without its limitations. So it did give me inspiration to look further into different dark lore and legends and celebrations from around the world. And then, when we laid in bed that night, my wife read this in one sitting, and then I read it this morning in one sitting. So this is more of a short story than an actual book, but it is a beautiful cover. It does have, I don't want to give away the very last. I want to show an illustration, but I didn't want to show it like the last line of the book. But it looks nice. I mean, it's very pleasant. This is definitely the sort of thing that you could conceivably, sit by a fire at Christmas time and read to a group, and it's fine for that. So it's the Wood at Midwinter. Like I said, I know this author, but I haven't read anything by her before, and I read this coming right off of this. So I definitely had this kind of, winter folklore in mind when I was reading this. And we have, I'm not going to give all the details away, but we essentially have these two sisters, and one of them is very much in tune with nature, to the point where she doesn't really have much value for anything else. We have here a sort of take on the nativity, and the Christian story of the birth of Jesus, and it's kind of been overlaid onto something of like a St. Francis of Assisi type of character who is becomes like a mother of the wood, it seems, somebody who would connect the world of man to the world of nature through becoming a mother to nature in certain ways. I mean, it sounds complicated, but it's not super complicated. It is a strange book. We definitely get the thoughts of various animals that she's with. We get the thoughts from the trees. So there's definitely a nice little whimsy to the whole thing. It's very, there's a certain enchantment involved. And I liked it overall. I think that I could have used just a little bit more to have it really pack a punch. But it's certainly a beautiful, beautiful book, really nicely illustrated. I can definitely see kind of dipping into this maybe around Christmas time, or reading it out loud or something like that, and see if other people get something out of it. So yeah, those are the two kind of wintry quick reads that I read pretty much right before Christmas and right after Christmas. So yeah, if you've read any of these, love to hear your thoughts. As always, thank you, BookTube.